I'm Chris.
I'm Sandy.
And this is Parenting Autism. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 127 of the Parenting Autism podcast. I'm with Sandy as usual. And here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
We took back over.
We
The boys
did.
took over last week. Michael and Bryce. If you missed that episode, you can check them out. And we're back on today.
What are we back on for?
Back on for approximately... Oh, wait. No, you don't know the time. I got a few things here. I know you like to kind of recap. I'm not sure I have a long list. But I do want to mention a game that was sent to us. I'm going to give a review on that.
Okay.
I'm going to follow up on a conversation we had a couple episodes ago about revisiting Bryce's autism doctor.
Okay.
So I'm going to follow back up on that because we kind of left it hanging. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we are doing now with church and working together with our ministry of the children's... What did I say it wrong?
Children's ministry leader.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anyway, we're doing some work there. So that's been happening behind the scenes. And then I had something come up the other day that I heard about feeling isolated or like not, people aren't there to help you, but maybe we are the cause of some of that. And I wanted to kind of bring that up for discussion with you.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay.
That should be plenty.
Great.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So, the game.
The game.
So, we previously received a game that we reviewed, and it was geared more for younger kids, which would be more like Bryce's age. Bryce is 10, for those who don't know. And we played that with him. He really enjoyed it. It's kind of like these tiles on the floor. You have a oversized die that you roll, that you roll for 1 to 6, depending what you roll, and different things to do. This game that we receive now is for older people who are transitioning into adulthood.
Do you remember the title of the first one?
No.
Okay.
What's
Just
next? What's
check.
next?
Is that what it's called?
Yes, but
Okay.
there's the what's next and whatever the other child's version is. And I think we're going to have this as a resource on our website.
Okay.
And then the new one is what's next, a life-size transition game. So anyway, we said if they wanted to send us that game, that we would play it with our nephew, Storm, who is 25 and on the autism spectrum. And he comes over pretty much every week to hang out with us, and he plays with Bryce. So he came over to play the game, and Bryce also played it. And so while some of it was a little over Bryce's head because he's not quite there, he really enjoyed it too. So I played it with them as well, so they weren't the only ones playing it. It was fun, and Storm said right away that he had one criticism. I said, "You do? Okay, what is that?" And he said, "There's not enough tiles." So I would take that he was enjoying it and the game wasn't long enough.
How many tiles would you say there were?
I believe there were 25.
Okay. So you want to keep playing?
He wanted to keep
obviously.
playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I took that as a compliment that he wished the
He
game
could have
didn't
started over, but it sounds like maybe he wanted some more different tiles.
Yep.
Yeah.
He wanted it to keep going. And so I took that as a compliment
Very good,
from him.
yeah.
Yeah. So the game, I thought it was fun. I think it would be great for a group setting. It had like how to introduce yourself, questions about public transportation, dating, which was really cute when we asked Storm about that. He just really wasn't sure what to say. And
Could this just be a regular adult party game too?
I would say,
Just to make things fun?
well, I guess you could, but it's definitely geared more toward those who have social deficiencies.
Okay, so to help them.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yes,
To
definitely
make them think about
it is about
social
transitions in life.
situations.
Yeah, social and getting jobs and learning to take public transportation and growing up.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so that's why they call
I'm
it a game of
picturing an
transitions.
adult game that would be just as fun. Maybe they could come up with, one for typical adults. That I mean,
Maybe you
'cause,
could.
Yeah, that sounds
We
like
would
fun.
like a clean version. It seems like most of these adult games
Right.
have raunchy
Yes.
tiles.
Right. So
We'll say, so.
it is possible to have fun cleanly.
It is. We do
Yes.
it all the time, sober and clean. But anyway, so I thought it was great. Again, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. And if there are people listening, that are working with kids or adults that are older, I think it would be something to look into. And thank you so much, M&J Games, for sending us that. We
Yes,
appreciate it. And
thank
we do
you.
plan to play some more with Storm. He's excited to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to give that review. Following up to our conversation we had here on the podcast about whether we were going to go see Dr. Buckley again.
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying that because we weren't sure, did we need to go again? Because we're at the out-of-pocket stage. Go ahead.
We weren't sure if the medications that he was taking were ones that he should be taking for long-term to help him with some deficit that his body was not compensating for. And that turned out to be true. So they said, yes, we want you to continue taking those. And so we asked them, how long they would write prescriptions. And they said that they would continue to write prescriptions, but they did kind of want to see him at some point again, it sounded like. So they're very flexible with that. And so we're thankful that we reached out and they replied.
We did. Thank you for that nutshell version. Now, let me give a little more details because that's what the girls do.
Okay.
Okay. So
Girls do have more words than
we do.
guys. Yeah.
So that was good. That was for the men. Now for the ladies. Here we go. So Chris wrote an email to the office, and he said that Bryce's anxiety has plummeted for an unknown reason this year. Maybe it's because he's growing older and understanding things more. Anyway, it's been great news for us. We've been able to take him off all anxiety-related prescriptions and supplements. He's doing great. My question is about the Luvocorin and the B12. I believe those were both for language. Do you think these are lifelong prescriptions that he will need? He is still behind in vocabulary words for his age, but he is talking like a champ. I just can't remember if we were using these because of a bodily process that was working correctly or what. Same goes for the glutathione. We're just trying to figure out if or when we should or could discontinue these. It's hard to tell if they're still benefiting him. Any insight would be greatly appreciated.
That's very
Great
well
email.
written.
Yes, it was. So then they came back and said that Dr. B says I would continue both. The B12 and the glutathione were to help with methylation defects.
Methylation, yeah.
And will be important for life. Eventually, we may switch to oral and B12 because he does shots now. But if language still isn't there where it should be, I would continue it. Be prepared for anxiety to return with a vengeance through puberty. It is a normal phenomenon for all kids in puberty and much harder on our kids. So I Googled methylation. How'd you say
Methylation.
it? Thank you.
Yes.
So it says that affects anxiety, concentration, lack of focus, short-term memory, and poor emotional stability. Nothing about language. Interesting enough. But obviously he has deficits in a lot of these areas, so it would be good for him to take.
Which might explain why his anxiety got better, because we've just been religious about taking it.
Yeah. So anyway, so that has been helpful. We're continuing to do that. And we did get some new vitamin B12 shots. Unfortunately, the needle was larger than the prior needle.
And they didn't tell us.
They did not tell us, and it was not noted until you already had jabbed it into Bryce's body, and he was unhappy.
I saw it was longer, and I couldn't really tell if it was larger in diameter, but after giving him the shot and seeing his reaction, I was like, oh, yeah. So that was kind of a meltdown. We haven't seen a meltdown in a long time, but it was...
Oh, he was unhappy.
It was the whole day, really.
It ruined the whole day. It did.
Yeah, he was mad at me. He wanted to leave and run away, and I was very sad about it.
So what did you do?
I don't remember what I did offhand. What did I do?
You placed a call to the pharmacy.
Oh, well, yeah, I thought you meant with Bryce.
No.
But, yeah, I called the pharmacy, and they said, yes, unfortunately, they ran out of the smaller needles, so the technicians put in the larger needles and didn't tell anybody, and so it was a learning...
Weren't you one of multiple phone calls that they had already received?
It was a learning opportunity for the pharmacy, so... Yeah,
so... what do you take away from that? Obviously, we've ordered from them multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess as a parent, if you see a difference, we should not ignore the red flag and stop and do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like what you did with Bryce, honestly, we had to give him a little bit of time and space.
Mm-hmm.
And then we told him, of course, that he wouldn't have to get another shot until we got new needles.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to show and confirm and that he would trust us again that this one was different.
Thankfully he did.
And he did, and we're back on track. But that could have gone even further south and not returned for a long, long time. So anyway, I did want to follow up on that, and I wanted to, it made me also think of another...
Oh, let me just say something while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Is we did have a visit with his geneticist, right?
Did we talk about that?
No, because I don't think we've done a podcast since then.
We did the vision and geneticist?
I don't know.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Go back. But anyway,
if it's a repeat, go ahead.
I just want to mention what she said about functional medicine doctors.
I don't think you said that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in conversation with her, she was asking us the things that we've tried and the things that Bryce is taking that we've seen improvements with. She was very curious and wanted to know. So we told her some of the things that we've done, and she's like, oh, that's great. She says, I've seen some parents try some really crazy stuff, but the things that you guys are doing are, I've heard about, and she says functional medicine is typically 10 to 15 years ahead of them being regular doctors.
Yeah, she did say that.
So I was like, wow, that's, because functional medicine doctors can try things, and sometimes off label, and they can see improvements, in children without having to go through the clinical trials and, follow the
protocol,
the quote unquote doctor protocol, right? So doctors have to follow, their thing, and the functional medicine doctors can, I don't want to say experiment, but they can do what they think helps, and they do a lot of research,
kind of experimenting, isn't it?
Well, I think they do their research, and they
too.
They prescribe things and suggest things that are based on research and findings. But as far as some of these aren't double-blind placebo,
and
medical journal.
And when I say experiment
studies,
I mean, because every child, especially,
is different.
Yes, with these special needs that our children have, they're so different that it is like an experiment. Yes. Will this work for your child? I don't know. But
we often
has for
talk about comorbidities that go along with autism. So, like, you can have autism, but different functions inside the body are doing different things for different children. Like, you meet one child with autism, you met one child with autism. So yeah, they are able to do that, and it's helped a lot of families.
And then you find an article shortly after that kind of put in print what she was saying. Or
probably.
You don't remember?
I don't know. My memory is shorter and shorter.
I could have swore that
days.
You did, and I said you should send that to Bryce's pediatrician.
Oh,
because I had talked to him about.
That's right.
the prescription, and I said, send that to him because he wants to know if there's been any studies or research out there, because he's very open to that. He just needs to see that. And so you were supposed to share that with him, which I'm sure you did. So with a wink of my eye.
Wink, wink. I'll have to go back and find it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just all very interesting. Very, very interesting. What was I going to say? I did want to say this. So when I was reading these notes, because I had jotted this down a while ago and we just haven't been here on the podcast to talk about it. When you said that Bryce is using language like a champ, I think I would like to talk a little bit further about Bryce's language. So just so the listeners have an idea of where Bryce is with communication and verbal communication. Yeah. Bryce has expanded his vocabulary. There's no doubt about that. He uses a lot more words than he used to. He talks in sentences. Example, this morning he was changing his shorts after church because I have him dress up a little bit nicer for church, and then when we come home he puts on play clothes. He changed out of his church shorts into his play shorts, and he says, I'm going to wear these shorts now that I more commonly wear. Okay, so that's Bryce trying to use another word. And I said, okay. And he repeated it again. He goes, I'm going to wear these shorts. These are the ones I more commonly wear. And I said, okay. I said, I think I would use the word usually instead of commonly. I would say these are the shorts that I usually wear. But I think that's great that you're trying to use a new word today. And I left it at that. Bryce also can have a hard time putting sentences together that he's trying to communicate his thoughts that aren't related to his games or related to aviation or something that's like one of his favorite interests, right? So, for example, earlier this week, he has a new occupational therapist. And when she came out to see me, she said, when I asked Bryce to kind of tell me, like to recap what we did for the day, because I guess she was having him write it down after they did their work together. She said he really couldn't remember it. And when he was trying to tell me, he couldn't find words to tell me. She goes, so I took him right over to speech, and I know you've asked me, what can you do to work with him? That's what you need to work with him on. And I've just met her like a month and a half ago. And so I just smiled and nodded, and I said, thank you. I appreciate that. And you're right. That is something that we work on because Bryce does struggle a lot with communication and expressing his thoughts to other people, especially if you're asking him to put sentences together that he hasn't readily already formed in his head. Is that a fair way to say it? What do you think?
Yeah, and when I said he was using language like a champ, I probably meant to say he's talking a lot more than he used to. So, like, he's much more talkative now than when we started. So I believe those things are helping him talk and express himself and his concerns and everything. But he is behind on vocabulary and reading and
comprehension, don't you think?
Comprehension because of his ADHD. I think he has a hard time comprehending things because he's thinking about so many other things at the same time. So he does have trouble remembering things that he just did or things that he did yesterday. Like if we asked him what he did yesterday, he probably wouldn't be able to tell us.
True. And I also have noticed, like in school, you're asking him to write a sentence out every day.
Yeah.
It's a struggle for him to come up with new concepts for sentences.
Right. He just uses the words repeatedly, and I'm like, nope. Here's a list of adjectives that you can use in your sentence. Let's pick a new one, right? Or a different subject.
Well, I told him he couldn't use the same words, or I wouldn't give him points for any words that were repeats. So that it would motivate him to try to come up with something different, because he's limited to, I like blah, blah, blah. I love blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I want blah, blah, blah. And we're trying to help him expand his thoughts and be able to spontaneously come up with some type of sentence that doesn't start with I or you and a simple verb like that. And
so
it's hard for him.
Friday, I think he used the adjective amazing or something else. I forget what he used, but I said he couldn't think of something. I said, well, there's a new game that you're playing now that you really like. It's called Eggy something. And I said, why don't you talk about that? And he said, yeah, so playing Eggy, whatever it is amazing or makes me happy or something like that. So it was a totally new sentence, and I was proud of him for doing that. So
But you had to
I gave him the adjective
significantly
chart.
prompt him and give him the idea.
Yeah, I gave him the idea of what to write about.
I get it.
And then I showed him the list of adjectives.
Right, which is
but
great.
then he populated the sentence by himself. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, we have a long journey ahead of us to still to get him to a point with communicating, with using.
I mean, people could probably tell from the
of
previous
things.
podcast with him and Michael that he has trouble getting his thoughts across and the words that he uses to get those thoughts across.
Some, but I have to say, listening to that, he did really well because they were talking about Roblox. So when it's something he's familiar with, and Michael, he did a great job leading Bryce in with stuff and asking
with
him
questions. Yep.
But if you were to just say to him today, why don't you give me a sentence about what you loved best about church today? I think even setting him up for that, it would be really hard, and it would be 5 words at best that he could give us. So my point with all of that, bringing that up, is I definitely don't want people to misunderstand and think Bryce is just over here fluently talking to us all the time, because that is not the case. But having said that, it's encouraging that he's making tons of progress. He is expanding his vocabulary all the time because we work with him on that and helping him understand how. And these shots, I want to finish my thought. Hopefully these medicines, and especially the B12 shots, when she says it's going to give him more language, my hope is that means it will also give him more comprehension, and that it will help his brain be able to connect those dots beyond where they are now. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I think any child with autism, all you can hope and pray for is progress. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Moving forward in some way or fashion. There are times of regression where you lose things, or you get behind, and 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, and I think when we get into Bryce's challenges that he has with dialogue, with comprehension, with communicating, it's so much a part of not just the autism. I think the autism is part of the social awkwardness, because again, Bryce loves being around people. It's the awkwardness and knowing how to communicate with them, which we witnessed today with that little boy when they were trying to exchange information. He can get it out, but it's awkward and a little bit unpolished. But he also has the auditory processing, disorder that we have to work with. And not every child has that challenge. And then you put the ADHD on top of that, and a lot of the kids with autism, it seems like they also have the ADD or ADHD to go along with it. But there's just a lot that we deal with. But again, it's nothing negative. It's just, I thought we would expand on that conversation, because as well as he's doing, and we're thrilled, just sometimes I look at this and I'm like, and I know he still has a long ways to go, but I'm still so happy that he's doing so well every day.
I'm very thankful for where he's at now. And it just, that conversation reminded me of a comment we got on one of our YouTube videos on the Parenting Autism Show YouTube channel. We have that video on there where we helped Bryce through his balloon anxiety with his
water balloons.
RBT, right?
Yep.
And so somebody commented and said, oh, yeah, I remember those days, like when I was super scared. Like this person wouldn't even watch cartoons that could possibly have balloons in them because he was just, so frazzled by them. And I wrote him back. I said, thanks so much for commenting. I said, do you still have any anxiety about the balloons now, or is it all gone? And they wrote back and they said they're good to go now. They don't have that anxiety anymore. So that was very encouraging. And I think, Bryce is going to get there too. I think he's overcome a lot of his fear of loud noises.
Well,
and
to that point, the last 2 weeks, he faced his fear, and he has not been wearing his headphones at therapy. Mm-hmm. That is a massive victory.
Yeah, big victory.
Over a year.
Yeah. And I think after being in church today and observing him in his classroom at church, I think the next step could be
work toward that,
a victory there with removing his headphones, because what I observed was not a lot of loud noises. I think these are just conversation, they're videos, they're, props and things that he could handle without the headphones.
Unless there was something unusual, like a couple weeks ago when they were going to do the Wall of Jericho and there were loud noises. Mm-hmm. If we know in advance that they're planning something like that, otherwise, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
He's got to get over that fear, because even afterwards, I said, you don't have to have your headphones on now, buddy. We're right here. And he's like, no, it's okay.
And we're working with the children's ministry leader to make it more welcoming and to those with special needs at our church. And I think that population's just going to grow once they see and know that we love on them,
Yeah. Let's go ahead and go there for a minute. So you have officially joined me for serving with the kids ministry. Thank you very much. And today was your first day, so give me a little recap.
We had more kids than we anticipated, which is a good problem to have. We almost ran out of space, but it's so great to have all these kids doing activities about God, learning about God, coloring about God. And then we go into the treehouse where all the kids get together, K through fifth, and they do story time, puppet time, and they all learn together. They get prizes if they remember verses or sentences,
rules from the house, lessons that we have.
Yep. So it really warmed my heart to see just a few of them. Those children just really, they know.
Yeah, they do, don't
they? They know. They study. They know it. And it's just very encouraging just to see them learning more about Jesus.
And how did your heart feel seeing Bryce being one of 30 children and being right there with no
He was in the front row,
and answering questions.
Yes. Yep. So, that's
it
all
warms
you can
my heart every
hope
time.
for. Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, it was great.
That's cool. And so you and I, we're working with kindergarten to second grade. So we're not in Bryce's main class,
right,
but we're with him in the treehouse. And I would say that there are 4 children of our 16 today that are on the autism spectrum somewhere. So that's 25% of our classroom.
Yeah, looking at it that way.
That is on the spectrum. And that's why we feel
it's important.
Such a calling to help our church, to help other churches, to help other families, not only so that the parents can go into church and comfortably enjoy and, get their spiritual fill up, because they pour out all week into their children and they need to be filled up. And to be able to be social and to be there and have worship. But with the kids, it's important to me that they feel loved, they feel welcomed, and that they feel comfortable.
Did you talk about the ISP last week?
No.
Okay.
So
that's one of the things that we're implementing now.
One of the things.
It's called the Individual Spiritual Plan, and it's basically a form that parents fill out for their kids that tell the volunteers and leaders what their parents are expecting or want their child to learn in the treehouse or the classroom, and also any special needs that they might have, or sensory aversions, or right?
Yeah, so. I put this together for Bryce because I wanted it in his classroom, and so it's got our contact information. It's got our cell phone numbers on there, and it says to call us if he does have a meltdown, because I don't want someone that's not familiar with him trying to undo that. Right. If it gets to that point, and I put it's rare, but should there be a trigger and should it happen, call us. Because I think every parent can determine when they want to be called.
It also lists allergies.
He's got allergies because Bryce has the peanut allergy. And then I put his 3 diagnoses that we have. I also put in there that he has a slight reading disability and he has an aversion to writing because he can do a little bit, but it's really hard for him. And there is some writing to do because we have the big idea card that they have to fill out. But he's been doing well with that. But we had long words today. We had like commitment, communication, courageous. Those could throw Bryce for a loop. They're long words. But anyway, so I put that on there. I put what his likes are so they know his special interests and what he does like. I put what his dislikes are, which would be the obvious with the sudden unexpected loud noises.
There's also a space to put in there if there's a behavior, how to help him.
Yes.
Calm him down.
Yep.
So it's really helpful to the volunteers and leaders to have that in case something were to happen, or they can refer back to that.
And then to me, one of the most important things that I put on there is what my goals are for him to get out of church. And that I want him to hear every week how much Jesus loves him. That's a goal for me. I want him to learn somebody's name that's in his classroom and to know who the leaders are that are in his classroom. He doesn't. And we've been there a year and he still doesn't. Yeah. He has yet to come home with a name of somebody that he's connected with. Yeah,
I'd like for him to hook up with somebody that he can just talk to, as a friend.
Yes. And that's yet to happen.
And I know that
he enjoys going,
it's kind of difficult in the treehouse because they're all together, they're worshiping, they're going through the thing.
It'll be in the other room.
It'll be in his classroom before the treehouse that would take place.
Yeah, so that's one of my goals. I love that he's learning Bible verses. I want that to continue. I mean, he is doing some of the things that are my goals, but I think having them in writing for the leaders, because every child is at a different level. They have different abilities. And I think it's important to give your church leaders an idea of what you would like to see happen. And then if it doesn't seem realistic, then somewhere you kind of meet in the middle. So I didn't want it to feel like an IEP, where it's an educational plan. I said, I don't want that because when Bryce used to have IEPs when he was in public school, I would cry. I mean, it was like pointing out all of my child's deficits and how we were going to try to make him better and blah, blah, blah. I don't want it to be like that. All I want it to be is, these are our concerns. This is our child in a snapshot. And it can always change, and that's probably something that just needs to be reviewed maybe every 6 to 12 months, probably 6 months, because it changes fairly often. But anyway, we're excited. And so I introduced that, and now that has gone out to all of our families. So we're hoping that by doing it this way, that the parents will share. But I want to encourage our listeners who do have children who have, special needs and or disabilities or whatever you call that, and you want to go to church, share that information with the leaders, because I wear both hats. I'm the mommy and I'm also the leader. And I know that there are 4 in our class because I know.
But there's an elephant
in the room. Have I been told that?
Right.
I have only been told that by 2 of the 4.
Right. So by sharing that information with the leaders, that puts us at ease, knowing, what to do for your child. But I'm sure some parents may not be aware, right? And
that's possible too.
That's the other thing. So
if they don't know, they don't know.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
But if you're a parent of a special needs child going to church, you make sure, and maybe we can put this ISP on our website to where people can fill it out and bring it into their church.
Yeah, absolutely.
And say, this is all about my
we'll
child.
Put that in our resources. Yeah.
So great idea there. And so, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so we're very excited. I will say that the month of July has been the month that the Lord is starting to bring some things into focus for where He wants me to spend a lot of the new time that I have, having left the job that I was at. And so He's showing both of us, what's going on now.
After the meeting with our children's ministry leader, both you and I, when we got done with that meeting, we're like, we feel like this is our mission.
It's our call.
We need to either partner with an organization or that helps churches, or figure out a way to help churches on our own, so that everybody can be included and be able to go to church without having worries.
Yes, and where my vision is to expand upon what I'm finding, because I've the great news is there are a lot of organizations out there now that are doing this, that are really trying to help the churches, and there are a lot of churches that are seeking the help so that they can do this. So there is an awakening going on. There's no doubt about that. I have found Facebook groups. I have found websites. What I am not finding as much of that was originally in my mind are actual tools for teaching the children. So there's a lot of emphasis on taking care of them, having sensory rooms, having buddy rooms.
Because a lot of these kids learn differently.
Exactly.
To
me, that's the missing piece of the puzzle.
They need it simpler and in a more basic way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So today, I was looking at something online, and I know the Holy Spirit's leading me here, and I figured I didn't want to have to recreate the wheel if it was created, but I have not found the wheel. So I guess I'm going to be creating some. But when I was young, and this would be a long time ago, probably 40 years ago, there was a simple book that we had. Went to a Baptist church, but it had 5 colors, and it kind of told the gospel in 5 colors. And it was very simple, and it was very effective. What I did not know, and I learned today, was this original concept actually started back in the 1850s. And then D.L. Moody, who was a very famous preacher, expanded upon it by adding a 4th color. So there used to be 3, then there was 4. The one that I came across today now has it up to 8 colors because they're trying to keep them more current. And I thought 8 is too much. I know my son.
Yeah,
8's way too many.
Maybe 5.
I'm going back to
4.
5. So I went back to 5. And I just created this tool today. And I'm going to actually work on it with Bryce later today and see how he takes to it. And then once he's my
test subject.
He is my test subject. So once I finish with him, then I'm going to have another tool that I want to try at church with our kids, and to see how they take to that, and run that by Miss Gina and stuff. So anyway, I'm very excited because I do believe that this is where the Lord is going to also lead us, is to create simple materials for those who learn differently.
And figure out how to implement them with the other kids too. I mean, so do you separate them? Do you integrate it? Well, so we'll figure all that out.
That's exactly it. Yep. That's where my brain is spinning right now, and I'm really excited because I know that God's going to continue to lead with that. But that's what we're working on over here. So having said all that, I'm going to bypass that other topic I was going to do today. I'll save it for another time. It's no biggie. But what I do want to do is to put this out there to everyone that's listening. If you have any questions, any suggestions, if you can even send us a note and share with us what your current church situation is, if you're going at all, if you're watching online, if you do attend a church but they need services, if you already have some tools that you have found to be effective to teach the basics of Jesus and God's love and salvation for your children, reach out to us. I would really, really appreciate that.
Yep, you can get us directly at parentingautism@att.net. So.
Yep, or you can also go to our website and contact us that way.
parentingautismshow.com.
That's it. You can always come through Facebook, social media if you follow us, but those are the best way that you just said. So that's what I want to leave out there.
Awesome. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. We also got our book that we wrote. So you can find that on Amazon, Parenting Autism, the Early Years. And so if you guys need any other resources that you don't have, just reach out to us and we'll see what we can do.
Sounds good.
And we can also email you directly the ISP that we have if you want us to do that. Just send us an email.
That sounds great.
All right, let's wrap.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening and have a great day.
See ya.
Bye.